Hello and welcome back to the channel. 2025 is almost upon us and it will be a very impactful year for everyone because all four of the major planetary energies will be changing signs. In addition, Mars, which has spent the last few months transiting the signs of Gemini and Cancer and is currently in retrograde motion, will remain in these signs until June. So it will be a very long transit for Mars between the signs of Gemini and Cancer. Jupiter, which is considered the greatest benefic, will move into Gemini in May 2025 and it will be transiting very quickly, and within 6 months it will transit into Cancer where it will be exalted in October 2025 before going retrograde in Cancer and moving back into Gemini in December 2025. So a lot of planetary activity is happening. So let's look at the planets and the dates when they will be changing signs. So first one is Saturn. So Saturn will move into Pisces on the 29th of March 2025. Jupiter will transit into Gemini on the 14th of May 2025. Jupiter will then move into Cancer on the 18th of October 2025 before going retrograde back into Gemini on the 5th of December 2025. Rahu will transit into Aquarius on the 18th of May 2025 and Ketu will transit into Leo on the 18th of May 2025. Mars will then transit into Leo on the 7th of June 2025. So it's very important to look at transits from the moon first. So in my personal journey of learning Vedic astrology, I've seen all the results from the moon, so that is how I look at the transits. So I will now go through the predictions for each of the zodiac signs. These predictions are general and will be broken up between career, finance, relationship and health. If you do have any questions, you can email me at exaltedmercury8@gmail.com. So let's go through the predictions for 2025. For Aries natives, so the lord of your chart is Mars, which is currently retrograde in Cancer in your 4th house, and then it will transit back into your 3rd house before finally going direct towards the end of February. So this shows that the area of focus, especially for the first part of the year, will continue to be around your immediate environment, which includes your family and home, your business and livelihood. This year, Saturn will be moving into your 12th house, and this can show strong chances of being away from your home or mother for whatever reason. So the first area of life, which is your career, the first part of the year, Saturn will be transiting your 11th house till the 29th of March, which is an excellent position for Saturn to transit in. So this shows that you'll be able to maintain the discipline and focus towards your career development and growth. The 11th house is a good house for Saturn because here you can develop specialist skills which can help you grow professionally. While the position of Saturn is good, Ketu on the other hand, which is in your 6th house, has the power to cause disruptions and breaks in your job, and it doesn't let you settle into a stable routine. So this combination of Saturn and Ketu can show that your position might be stable, but your actual role, the tasks that you do, can change and vary a lot. Ketu here can also show that you may be sacrificing your needs, your work-life balance where you are prioritizing work and putting in excessive hours, which can lead to burnout. If you are someone who is a contractor, Saturn in the 11th house can ensure that you are working. But with Ketu, your contract roles can be very short term. Ketu in the 6th house can also show a break in your job, or a change of job is possible for the first half of the year. If you are in business, the first 6 months can be fairly good, because whenever there are planets in the 3rd and 11th houses, they are supportive of business. So Saturn in the 11th house will help you put strong focus on your business. But with Ketu's position in the 6th house, things can be changing from day to day a lot, or you'll be putting in tremendous amount of effort, and because Mars is retrograde, you may be starting to feel a little bit tired. The second part of the year, when all four major planetary energies change sign and houses, you can expect major changes in your work and career. For service-related employment, Saturn will be moving into your 12th house, and here you can find yourself in isolation. You could well find a new job opportunity where you may need to move around a lot, go abroad, or go to different sites, which can make you feel detached and create feelings of loneliness. There are strong opportunities for you to change jobs, as the 10th house lord is in the 12th house, or within your workplaces there can be changes. So, for example, there can be a situation where systems and processes will start to feel outdated. So when Saturn is in the 12th house, it shows that the structure and foundation that you have built over the many years or decades can start to break gradually over the next 2.5 years. It could be that the company you are working for is laying off staff, so the possibility of redundancy is there. But you'll definitely feel like you need to restart your career again. So for example, automation, AI, the world and how people work is changing. So you'll be going through these changes over the second half of the year and over the next few years. If you are working in business or you plan to launch a business, Jupiter will transit into your 3rd house from the 14th of May. And this is a very supportive position to develop any ideas that you may have come up with, or this is an opportunity for business expansion. But you will have to prepare yourself to work very hard mentally and physically. When Saturn is in the 12th house, it can show connecting with overseas customers, clients, or it can show, especially if you are starting a business, that you may be dedicating a lot of work, putting in a lot of effort, which may not yield the financial return at this stage. So obviously when people start a new business, before it becomes profitable, there are many hours behind the scenes where work is done but not rewarded at that stage. For finances, the two heavyweight planets, Saturn and Jupiter, are occupying the money houses the first half of the year. And therefore it is a favorable time to earn money and also save money. When Jupiter is in the 2nd house, there is a desire for the growth of material security and resources. So there is a possibility to buy a home. Mars will be transiting in Cancer, and though it is debilitated, it is actually very supportive for anything related to nurturing and indoor related, such as buying a house. Jupiter in the 2nd house can make you purchase things which have a significant value to you and which can be seen as an investment. So for example, ladies, they like to buy handbags, Louis Vuitton, Chanel handbags, and these can be seen as luxurious purchases but also as investments. And similarly for guys who like to buy watches, these are also seen as investments. And since Jupiter is in Taurus, you will be buying luxurious things which can be seen as an investment. Now, the second half of the year, if you are in business, it means that you can earn really well because of Jupiter's aspect on Rahu in the 11th house. But saving money could be a little bit tricky. When the 11th Lord Saturn is in the 12th house, it means that your outgoings can be high. And even though Saturn is a planet which normally likes to restrict, and in some ways this will help you be more cautious, but because Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, which has no boundaries, has no limitations,
it is just free. So it means that your money will flow out like water. And due to the current economic climate, the cost of living, the price of food and rent, your expenses can be uncontrollable. You may also be forced to invest money in your business or your work. So again, expenses can be incurred where you don't have much of a choice. For relationships, if you are already with someone, while Jupiter is transiting your second house, the first half of the year, it can show growth in your family where you can get married or have children. So the key planet to look at is your 7th house lord, which is Venus. And when it transits this house in June 2025, it is a strong time for your marriage to take place, if that is something you are planning in 2025. The second half of the year is better for those who are single and looking for opportunities to connect and network with people. Here, Jupiter is influencing all the Karma Trikona houses, which are the 3rd, 7th and 11th house. So you can expect good times and the formation of a relationship with someone. While Jupiter is transiting the 3rd house, there will be depth and clarity in your communication, and you can meet a potential partner through social events, dating applications, or through introductions from your network circle. You can also meet someone who you have a karmic bond with, as your Ketu will be in the 5th house, giving you that feeling that you may have known them from a previous life. This position of Ketu can also show a platonic relationship. You might love the person you are with, but the sexual or romantic features can be missing from your relationship or marriage. If you have been married for a long time, then Jupiter is also supportive. If you are going through separation or divorce, then Jupiter can give you this result too. So it's all about what you want. Jupiter will give you that happiness. For health and wellness, the first part of the year there can be some mental stress with Mars in retrograde motion and while it is transiting Cancer. Your energy and thoughts can be very scattered during this time. You could have worries related to property, your mother, or your home environment. When Ketu is transiting the 6th house, the first part of the year, this can give stomach, abdomen, and digestive related disorders. So it's very important for you to take care of your diet, eat healthy, and eat well. The second part of the year, Saturn will be in your 12th house. And if you are following transits from the moon, it is the start of Saraswati. So when Saturn is transiting the 12th house, it can make a person feel a little bit down and pessimistic, especially because it is transiting a water sign like Pisces. In your mind and physically, you may not be feeling comfortable for whatever reason. But when Jupiter moves into Cancer for a brief period of time on the 18th of October, it will bring a little bit of relief. Saturn in the 12th house can also give knee and feet related issues. So if you play any physical sports, you do have to take care. For Taurus natives, Venus is the lord of your chart and it will pretty much do a complete cycle around your chart, starting from your 11th house and finishing the year in your 8th house. The two heavyweight planets, Jupiter and Saturn, will be transiting good houses for the entire year. So therefore, you can expect many positive results in many areas of life. For the first area of life, which is your career, Saturn has been transiting your 10th house for the past 2 years and will continue to do so up until the end of March. This will help you maintain your strong sense of responsibility
and you will work hard to fulfill your obligations. There can be challenges, but through effort and perseverance, you can continue to build on your journey for success and recognition. If you do want to change your job, Jupiter's transit in the first house can create new beginnings for you, if that is something you are after. If you are in business, similarly, there is a lot of hard work you have to put in. And with Rahu's transit in the 11th house, it will help you build connections, which is a key part of success and growth. When Rahu and Ketu are in the 11th and 5th house axis, you need to stay humble and not live as an individual, but live as part of a community. Engage your business with the community. Do something which can help society, and this will help you become more profitable. 11th Lord Jupiter in the first house can empower you with ideas and possibilities which can generate a lot of money. The second part of the year, Saturn will move into your 11th house, where you will reap the rewards for all your hard work the past couple of years. This can bring an elevation in your status. Promotion is possible with Jupiter's aspect on the 10th house. But along with this, there will be more hard work required. So you will continue to be busy the second part of the year, as higher positions often bring extra responsibilities. For business, Rahu is in your 10th house, or it will be in your 10th house, and it is excellent for attracting foreign clientele and can bring widespread recognition. So this is a good time to start a business if that is something that interests you, and if it is in your destiny, you can contribute positively to society. So overall, the whole 2025 is good for career and business. For finances, the whole entire year of 2025 is excellent. When the 11th Lord Jupiter is in the first house for the first part of the year, it means that your thoughts and energies are naturally attracting wealth to come to you, and you have a money mindset. When the sign of Pisces sits in the 11th house, it's very good because it doesn't have any boundaries or limits. It is a limitless deep sign, which can translate to there is no limit in the amount of money you can earn. So with Rahu in this house, for some of you, it would have given you extraordinary or large one-off gains the past 12 months, and it can potentially give you more the first part of this year. The second part of the year, Jupiter will move into your second house, and this will help you save more money or build wealth. If in the past you didn't make the most of your money, you will now have better financial management. Buying a property is possible, but because of Ketu's transit in your 4th house, you may not be completely happy living there. So you should consider all the features before buying anything. Saturn will then move into your 11th house. So your money will continue to flow, but it can flow more slowly. So for example, if you are expecting a $100,000 payment, when Rahu is in this house, it will give it to you in one go. However, when Saturn is in this house, you might receive that $100,000 payment in installments. In the area of relationships, this is generally not a great year for building connections. Mars is ruling your 7th house, and the first half of the year, it will transit your 2nd and 3rd houses, and currently it is also retrograde. So it means that it's difficult to progress or move forward in a relationship, or even if you do move forward, there can be a lot of things on your mind.
Although Jupiter is aspecting your 7th house, which is supportive, Saturn's position in the 10th house shows that there can be some kind of fear in your relationship. So for example, you might have met someone and things are going along okay, but in your mind, you might be thinking, are they the right person? So there can be some major doubts. So it doesn't mean that you won't get married if that is something that you want to do, because some of you will get married the first half of the year. But that doubt can still be there on your mind. And with Ketu in the 5th house, it can also show something is missing in your relationship. It could be lacking something, lacking emotions. You might feel that your partner doesn't completely love you, or you are not happy with your partner. If you are single, you can meet people the first half of the year, but with Ketu in the 5th house, it isn't that supportive for dating and romance. So there will be things you need to sacrifice or give up in order to progress a relationship. By the second half of the year, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu and Jupiter all would have changed signs. So this will be a time where you will be sacrificing your needs for your partner. Now, depending on the type of person you are or the culture you are from. So for example, it might be tradition where a woman is sacrificing her needs for her partner. But otherwise, definitely there is some imbalance caused by Rahu and Ketu here, which can adversely affect your relationship. And today's society is generally more equal between a wife and a husband. So this imbalance can cause some issues. Now, there could be an imbalance because you might be devoted to your work and you have less time for your relationships. So it doesn't necessarily mean something bad's going to happen. Now, Jupiter will be moving very, very fast, and on the 18th of October, it will move into your 3rd house of Cancer. So for those that are single at this point, this will bring another opportunity for you to connect and meet people again towards the last quarter of the year. For health and wellness, for the first part of the year when Jupiter is in the 1st house, it is generally a good placement to recover from any physical or mental health problems, which can involve a combination of medical treatment, lifestyle changes like diet and exercise, and seeking emotional support to improve your overall well-being and quality of life. Mars is ruling your 12th house, so it has the energy of healing for Taurus people. So you can be healing or getting a checkup for any problem related to the past, especially while Mars is retrograde. Going back to Jupiter's position, as always, there are positives and negatives for each planet in a house. So in the 1st house, Jupiter can cause headaches, and a person can be prone to gaining weight or muscle. So Jupiter will give you the result that you want. So if you really enjoy working out and staying fit and healthy, Jupiter will help you maintain your great shape. It will help you put on muscle if that is something that you want to do. If you are someone who loves their food, if you are a big foodie, and you don't have any interest in exercising, then you can gain weight during this period. So Jupiter will give you the results that you enjoy. The second half of the year, the imbalance in your 4th and 10th house, which is caused by Rahu and Ketu, means that you need to look after your 4th house, because that is where there is some neglect. The 4th house could be anything related to your mental health, your heart, chest and lungs area. This is also the house of happiness, and with Ketu transiting in this house, it can show negative emotions, dissatisfaction and sadness. And this could be due to relationships or family or any health related issues. Jupiter in the second house is good, but it will be transiting in Adra Nakshatra between June, July and August. And Adra Nakshatra, it represents a teardrop. And with Ketu in your fourth house, it can show that something you value can be lost. For Gemini natives, Mercury is the lord of your chart and it will transit each and every house in your chart this year. It is a very fast moving planet, but the significant moments can come when it goes retrograde, which it will do 3 times in 2025 for a total of 70 days in your Eartha Trikona houses, which are your 10th, 2nd and 6th. And they represent career and your daily routine. So during these retrograde periods, there could be breaks in your career, changes of job, changes in your daily routine is possible. The 2 heavyweight planets, Saturn and Jupiter, will be moving into better houses. Saturn will move into your 10th house, Jupiter will come into your 1st house. So the year will gradually be improving for you. So the first area of life, career, the first part of the year, Rahu is in your 10th house. And in the sign of Pisces, it represents limitless ambitions because it is completely uncontrollable in the sign of Pisces because there are no boundaries in Pisces. Pisces is a boundless sign. So in some ways it can be good because it can really elevate your status from a low level to a high level. It can make a person very visible. It can give you fame and power if your natal chart supports that. If your natal chart is not good for your career, then Rahu can also make a person change their job in the sign of Pisces because Pisces also represents escapism. So it can show regular changes in a job. There can also be travel related work, or you can work in a foreign country or city. Saturn in the 9th house can make a person very ambitious. So it may have helped you rise to a leadership position, or alternatively it can cause some difficulties and challenges with bosses. The second half of the year, Jupiter will be in your 1st house, which is a good position, and Saturn will move into your 10th house. So this combination will bring more stability in your career if that has been lacking the past 18 months. When Saturn is in the 10th house, it is good, but it's an eye-opener where you become more aware of your limitations and you discover things which you do not know how to do. So for example, if you found yourself in a higher level position or a leadership position during Rahu's transit in the 10th house, then now that Saturn is in the 10th house, it is going to teach you how to be a leader. It is going to teach you how to do your job. So with Saturn in the 10th house, you will be able to learn your role from the bottom to the top. So it is a good position as long as you can keep an open mind and stay humble. Then on the 18th of October, Jupiter will move into Cancer, which is your 2nd house, and it will be exalted here. So this is a good position for Jupiter to transit in, and it can provide you the guidance in your career because it will aspect your 10th house. So it will be like a guru helping you in your job, and it will also help you with your financial management. For those that are in business, when Jupiter transits Gemini, it is very good for business or very good for starting a business because Gemini is the natural entrepreneur of the zodiac. Full of ideas, creativity, excellent communication. So a great time to make the most of Jupiter's transit in the first house. Saturn in the 10th house will help you, while Jupiter and Rahu in a trine position will make you more ambitious and take risks. For finances, Jupiter is transiting your 12th house for the first part of the year, and this transit can give you expenses related to your home because it is aspecting your 4th house. So expenses related to renovation, buying a home, spending money that can contribute to your overall well-being. So it might be that you spend money on traveling, going on a pilgrimage, or something that can make you happy, because Jupiter is aspecting the 4th house of happiness. In terms of investing money, when Saturn is transiting the 9th house, it represents a cautious approach and a conservative risk-taking approach when it comes to things like investing money. So you can be very wary. Mars is ruling your house of income, which is the 11th house. And when it transits the 2nd house, ruled by Cancer, it can make you more motivated to safeguard your money, and you can be very protective. The second half of the year, all the major planetary energies will have shifted signs and houses, and Jupiter will transit your 1st house. So it's a period where your socio-economic status can be enhanced. When Jupiter transits the 1st house, there will be a lot of opportunities coming your way because Jupiter brings opportunities, and it can make you take a bit more risks, especially now with Rahu in the 9th house. When Jupiter moves into your 2nd house on the 18th of October, this will help you grow your assets and your finances through your work because it is aspecting your 6th house and 10th house. Also, when Jupiter is in the 2nd house, you can get unexpected gains because it is aspecting your 8th house. So wherever Jupiter is aspecting, when it is sitting in the 2nd house, it is where your income can come from. So for example, aspecting the 6th house, your income can come from work. Aspecting the 8th house, your income can come from unexpected gains, inheritance, and the aspect on the 10th house, again, income through career. So you can earn good money through your career the second half of the year. For relationships, there is a real contrast between the first part of the year and the second half of the year. The key planet here is Jupiter because it is ruling your 7th house. And when it transits the 12th house, it gives mixed results. So in terms of negative results, this can be a time that you can be away from your spouse or partner, or rather they can be away from you. They could be away for work reasons. It could be that you might be going through the process of breakup and separation. If you have been married for a long time, this can also feel like you no longer feel connected to that person. And this can be further intensified due to the imbalance caused by Rahu and Ketu in your 4th and 10th house axis. Because when Ketu is transiting the 4th house, it means that you are sacrificing your happiness. In terms of positive results, when the 7th Lord is in the 12th house, it means that your partner can be very generous. So someone who is willing to give their spouse good things freely and abundantly. Jupiter is not actually that bad in the 12th house because it is the natural ruler of Pisces. If you are young and single, this can be a time that you can come across a foreign person if that is supported in your natal chart, and that person can also be very generous. The second half of the year is generally much better because Jupiter will be in your 1st house. So if you are single during this time, a partner can come to you. When the 7th house lord is in the 1st house, it means that you don't really need to do the chasing. Your partner will come to you. So a good time if you are single. If you are someone who wants to separate or divorce, then this is a time an application to the court can be finalized, which can bring some major relief. Saturn's position is also very important because it is aspecting your 7th house. So whatever your goal is, you have to be pragmatic and rational in your relationship. Everything cannot be like a fairy tale love story. So it is important to remain grounded. Be open to people and be realistic about your expectations. One detail which is important is that Jupiter will transit in Ardra Nakshatra, which can be a rather destructive nakshatra, and it is represented by a teardrop. So you can feel some tension or disappointment or sadness because of your partner between the months of June and August. For health and wellness, the first part of the year when Jupiter is transiting the 12th house, it is helping you grow spiritually and helping you heal mentally and physically. Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, which represents the face area, and with Mars in your 2nd house, which represents the face area as well, it means that you could be healing from any eyes, ears or teeth related issues during the first half of the year. Jupiter aspecting your 4th house is helping you heal your mental health or any chest, heart related issues. And because Jupiter is aspecting your 8th house, there can be chronic issues or some type of major transformation that you may be struggling to heal from. So something has happened or will be happening which you will have to go through. Jupiter in the 12th house, Saturn in the 9th house and Ketu in the 4th house, these are not ideal houses for these planets. So it doesn't matter that Saturn is in its more Trikona sign. Saturn's house is not ideal. So these 3 planets are in difficult houses and that can be causing some mental health related issues. By mid-year, the 4 major planetary energies will have all shifted sign and houses, and they are in much better houses now. In addition, the lord of your chart, Mercury, will transit between the 1st and 5th house. So that means that you can expect major improvements in your health, especially in your mood. There will be more optimism and happiness, especially if you are looking at transits from the moon, because your Jupiter is going over your natal moon. So your spirits will definitely be lifted. Jupiter in Ardra Nakshatra between July and August can give some challenges, but because it is in a good house, you can get through it. And overall, there will be better times and improvement will be there from May 2025. For Cancer natives, 2025 can offer you mixed results. So the first part of the year, Jupiter is in a good house because it's in the 11th house. However, the second part of the year, I would say none of the 4 major planetary energies are in ideal houses. So your Ketu, Rahu, Saturn and Jupiter. Now that doesn't mean that there are no good results, because there will always be positive and negative results with every placement. And Jupiter in the 12th house, in some ways it is good because it is the natural ruler of Pisces. But in the current society we live in, it doesn't give the materialistic results that people want. So let's look at the different areas of your life. So for career, Mars is ruling your 10th house, and it will start the year in retrograde motion and then transit in direct motion between your 12th and 1st house. So firstly, when the 10th house lord Mars is retrograde, so Mars is a very independent planet, so it's associated with a strong sense of self.
So when it is retrograde, it's a time where you may not be able to assert yourself and the path forward can feel uncertain. So this is a time where instead of trying to figure it out on your own, you should accept help and cooperate with others and work better as a team. The first house is good for Mars, but when it is retrograde, it means that you have to do things slightly differently. So if there is anything you are unsure about in your career or work, do not hesitate to reach out for support. Mars is good in the first house, but unfortunately it is debilitated. But that doesn't mean it is bad. It means that you need to work a little bit harder to build up that confidence. And that is all. So we all build up confidence in different ways and in different time frames. So not everyone is like Aries, where they are naturally born confident. Cancers, they tend to be a little bit more introverted. Mars retrograde in the first house can also bring opportunities to you. Opportunities you may have rejected in the past, or opportunities that someone else has rejected and now it has come to you. So there can be changes in your job, and that coincides with Saturn's position in the 8th house, which is a natural significator of career. And Saturn in the 8th house can also it can also cause changes. But it causes changes where you can gain something. So for example, if you are made redundant, you can get a payout. Or if your position is abolished, you might be promoted to a new position. So Saturn in the 8th house is good for those who are working in banking, tax, healthcare, and any area that involves deep exploration. Saturn in the 8th house can also show work-related fears. However, you may have been dealing with certain work fears the past two years, so this period will shortly be coming to an end now. After mid-year, Mars will begin its transit from your 2nd house, and you will now be able to gain the confidence and clarity in career matters. Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu and Ketu will all have moved sign and houses. And when Saturn is in the 9th house, it is not completely smooth in terms of if you are starting a new job or if there is anything new you are starting. So there can be obstacles and challenges. But at least now, with Mars out of the retrograde condition, you will be able to work through challenges with a bit more confidence. So when I talk about challenges, it's likely that there can be challenges or disagreements with seniors and bosses. There can also be challenges with the actual work, the processes, but again, you will be able to come through it. So let's talk about the positives. The 9th house, it represents ambition. So with Saturn here, you can feel more driven. Everything that you have faced the last few years, you would have learnt from. And now you will have the inner power to drive ahead in your career. Unfortunately, Saturn is not like Jupiter, where everything can just go wonderfully perfect. But remember that through challenges, we can become stronger. And it's a path towards invincibility. Saturn in the 9th house can make you travel for work, and it is also good for those working in education and law. The good news is that Jupiter will speed through your 12th house and move into your 1st house, where it will be exalted on the 18th of October. So this is very good news, even though it's just for a few months, because not only will Jupiter give you solutions to problems you are facing, but it will also aspect Saturn. So any difficulties you go through from May to September, from October things will start to ease. But Jupiter will go back into your 12th house. So just be mindful of that. For finances, the first part of the year, we can see that Jupiter is in your 11th house, which is a wonderful position. So even though there may be changes in your work, you will be able to maintain your level of income, at least for the first 5 or 6 months of 2025. However, when Saturn is transiting the 8th house, which it will continue to do for the first 3 months of the new year, it can give mixed results where generally it is difficult to save money. So even though you might be earning a lot with Jupiter's position, but for whatever reason, you're not able to bank it away. So here you may not be getting the financial support from your partner or other people, where your spouse might not be working, or you might be going through marital issues where there needs to be a resolution of joint finances. So again, the exception is if you are working in an 8th house profession. Then Saturn's aspect on the 2nd house will steadily help you grow your money. If you are working in areas of stock, banking, investment, it can support the strengthening of your wealth. The second part of the year, once the 4 major planetary energies have all changed sign and houses, so this can be a time where expenses are really high, especially with Jupiter's position in the 12th house and Ketu's position in the 2nd house. So firstly, this combination can show property-related expenses or expenses to do with your immediate environment. So when Jupiter is in the 12th house, it aspects the 4th house. So you can be spending money on property or renovation or buying conveniences. So buying a car is possible. And you can also be spending money on improving your mental and emotional well-being. So health-related expenses is also possible. Ketu in the 2nd house can show difficulty in saving money. So obviously if you buy a house, you may not be able to save as much because you might have loan repayments. Ketu in the 2nd house can also show dissatisfaction with the money you have. Or, on a positive note, Ketu in the 2nd house can give you money which you did not work for. So, for example, inheritance. In terms of investing money in stock, I would say you have to be a little bit careful because Saturn in the 9th house is not a good time to invest money, unless you are investing in property. When Saturn is in the 9th house, it is not a good time to start new things. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't start something, but generally the 1st, 5th and 9th houses are naturally fire houses, and they represent new beginnings. So when Saturn is transiting these houses, anything new you start can have some challenges. For relationships, the first part of the year, your Saturn, which is your 7th house lord, will be in the 8th house, and this shows that you are going through some sort of rebirth in your relationship. Something has changed from the past and you're finding another way forward. But in order to find your way forward, you have to face some fears, which you would have been doing the past couple of years. So now, the first part of this year, Jupiter is in the 11th house, aspecting your 7th house. And this can show the formation of a relationship. But Mars, which is ruling your 10th house, signifies happiness from relationships. And Mars is currently in retrograde motion. So what that means is there is some apprehension, hesitation, and you can be really second guessing your decisions and actions, what you are doing. So if you are single at the start of the year, you can meet someone, but things may not be straightforward. Now, if you have been married for a long time, Saturn in the 8th house can show that your partner may be going through health-related issues, and depending on the severity, this can change relationships. This position of Saturn can also show something else in relationships. Something else has changed in relationships. So, for example, if you have a baby, then obviously priorities are changing. So no more date nights, and instead of going out, you might be changing nappies or diapers. So children can happen because Jupiter is aspecting your 5th house. The second part of the year, we have Rahu in the 8th house and your 7th Lord Saturn in the 9th house. So this Rahu and Ketu is causing an imbalance. But because you guys are Cancer natives, and Cancer is a sign that generally likes to play the supportive role in the relationship rather than the dominant role, this Rahu and Ketu in your 2nd and 8th house axis shows that you are giving up your values, your beliefs, your way of doing things for your partner. If you are happy to do this, then this Rahu and Ketu may not cause too many problems for you. But if you're not happy giving up, your values, if you're not happy with the inequality in the relationship, then this Rahu and Ketu transit can cause some relationship and marital problems. Saturn's position is not ideal in the 9th house. Having said that, the 7th Lord in the 9th house is technically good because your spouse can bring luck to you. But in order for them to bring luck to you, you have to go through challenges. If you can get through the challenges, then 7th Lord Saturn in the 9th house can give you some good results. But if it's too much of a headache, then Saturn's position in the 9th house can be difficult to grow a relationship during these few months. And as I said, Saturn in the 9th house, or the 1st house, or the 5th house, it's difficult to start something brand new. But Jupiter will speed through your 12th house and transit your 1st house, where it will be exalted on the 18th of October. So as I mentioned for career and finance, this is a great little short transit where you can now grow your relationship, or if you are single around October time, you could well meet someone in October, November. If you have been married for a long time, this transit of Saturn in the 9th house will be much better for you. So if you are in your 50s and 60s, your marriage or relationship would have gone through decades of hard work. And you would have come through all of that. You would have learned from, the challenges. So this transit of Saturn, for example, could bring grandchildren. So it's a new thing, but you would have had the experience before. And therefore, this transit of Saturn will not cause you too many problems. So the older you get, the less problems Saturn will generally cause. For health and wellness, the first part of the year, Mars will start the year in retrograde motion in your 1st house. So this can signify heightened emotional sensitivity, which can lead to challenges expressing yourself and difficulty to be assertive due to a strong desire to protect one's inner emotions. So there can be mood swings, passive-aggressive behavior, and generally when Mars is in Cancer, you have a slower approach that is safety-orientated first rather than goal-orientated. When Mars transits in the 12th house, there can be sleep-related issues due to career, relationship, or children. The second half of the year, it is all change, and Ketu will move into your 2nd house, while Jupiter will shift into your 12th house. So when Jupiter is ruling your 6th house, and the 6th house, it represents things you can control, such as your routine, your job, and Jupiter will be transiting the 12th house, as you can see. So the 12th house shows things which are out of our hands that we cannot control. So therefore, this transit can show a sudden or unexpected illness, which you will have to get treatment for. The 6th Lord in the 12th house can show that there is something changing in your routine, or it can show that you are withdrawing from the practical world. So this can be a time where you may not want to be around people, and you can withdraw from reality, and you prefer to be isolated. Jupiter in Vedic astrology represents the Jiv Garak, which is a soul. So not necessarily that you'll be suffering from any illness, but you may find comfort on your own, isolated and away from others. For Leo natives, Sun is the lord of your chart and spends about 1 month highlighting the affairs of each house it transits, completing a full cycle in 1 year. The difficult months can be when Sun is transiting the houses where it feels uncomfortable. So for example, in February, Sun will find itself in the 7th house, where it does not feel that comfortable because it struggles to express itself. And in addition, it will also be conjunct with Saturn. So between February to April, when it transits your 7th and 8th houses, it can be a challenging time. When Sun transits your 1st house in August-September, this period can be very good for you. So it's important to really track the transit of the Sun as well as the major planetary energies to determine the type of results you will receive. So the first area of life, which is your career, Jupiter is transiting your 10th house, which is the highest point in the sky, and it represents your social standing, achievements and reputation. Jupiter here is very good for the professional front because it will bring new opportunities and potential promotions as long as you are prepared to work hard, because Jupiter is aspecting your 6th house, which means the harder you work, the more recognition you can receive. Saturn's position is also immensely important as it is the natural significator of career. And in the 7th house, Saturn is really good, but for Leo people who are natural born leaders and like to stand out and be in the spotlight, it will give you a challenging time building workplace relationships. So you have to try and work with people rather than against them, which I'm sure you've been trying to do the past 2 years. This position is particularly good for those working in law and diplomacy because the 7th house is all about fairness and harmony. After the mid-year, all 4 major planetary energies will change sign and houses, and Saturn will move into your 8th house, which is to do with death and rebirth. So what that can mean in terms of career is that your job is that for some of you there can be a loss of job, a loss of position. Could be because of redundancy, or you may want to reinvent yourself. So for example, you might want to change your line of work and you have to reinvent your career and apply for new jobs. In some ways, this position of Saturn is good because it can push you outside of your comfort zone, where you can learn new responsibilities and skills. So this transit is good for those that are in their 20s and 30s who could handle changes in their career. Whereas if you are in your 50s and 60s, you may not want to take on a new challenge, and therefore this transit can be a little bit frustrating. Saturn's transit here is supportive for those working in healthcare, insurance, banking, and occult sciences. For finance, the first part of the year, Ketu will be transiting your 2nd house. And Ketu is an energy that can neglect the significations of the house it is transiting. So when it is transiting the 2nd house, it could be that you may not worry too much or put too much emphasis
in saving money, especially if you are married or in a committed relationship, because Rahu's position in the 8th house can show that your relationship is financially supported by your partner. Since Jupiter is in your 10th house, your work is likely going quite well, but for whatever reason, there is some financial difficulty, or some difficulty I should say, in saving money. So for example, you might have a baby and therefore you are unable to save money. Ketu in the 2nd house is all about letting go rather than accumulating. Now, if you are very finance driven, then Ketu in the 2nd house can show dissatisfaction with your finances. So you may well be saving $5,000 a month, but for whatever reason, you might have friends who are making tens of thousands of dollars each month. So you may not be content with what you have. So Ketu can make you not content. And Ketu here can also give you money that you did not work for. So things like inheritance, or like a win of some sort through an investment. The second half of the year, Jupiter will move into your 11th house. So therefore, if you do change your job, your income will remain relatively strong with any new position you acquire. When Jupiter is in the 11th house, it is aspecting your 3rd house, which means that this is excellent for those who are in business. The more effort and energy you put in, you will get stronger rewards. Jupiter is also aspecting your 5th house, which shows income from investments, shares and stocks. So this can be good during this period, and its aspect on the 7th house also shows income through your spouse. The only issue with finances is when Jupiter moves into Cancer on the 18th of October. And because your Saturn is in the 8th house and aspecting your 2nd house, the months of October, November and December, there can be financial challenges or challenges in joint financial matters with your partner or spouse. So these few months you have to be very cautious. For relationships, when Saturn is in the 7th house and Rahu is in the 8th house, these are two malefic energies which can adversely affect relationships. There is an imbalance where your spouse might be playing the dominant role in the relationship. They might be taking the lead in decision making, displaying assertive behavior, and overall exerting more control over the direction the marriage or relationship is going. If you are okay with this, then Saturn's position here will be providing stability in your relationship, and therefore the results can be good. But for Leo people, they are generally not happy with their spouse playing the dominant role because they want to be the lead. And if this is the case, then Saturn and Rahu's position here can cause some difficulties in relationships. The good thing is, Jupiter's position in the 10th house is positive for relationships. So if you have found challenges with your partner the past 2 years, but you are still together, then Jupiter will be contributing towards this. If you are single, Saturn in the 7th house can give you a partner which is very mature in mindset, in age, and very traditional. The second half of the year, Jupiter will be in your 11th house, and Rahu and Saturn would have swapped houses. So if you are single during this period, you can come across a person who is foreign in nature, or this person could be someone from your network circle or someone from a societal group which you may be part of. When Aquarius sits in the 7th house, it also shows someone who is a little bit eccentric or unconventional. So if you are trying to find someone from your own cultural background, it can be unlikely. And with Saturn in the 8th house, it means that your relationship is going through a rebirth. Or if you are single, the type of person you might come across will be very different than your initial expectations. On the 18th of October, Jupiter will then move into your 12th house. And this is also a time where there can be separation between couples. And this can also show that your spouse may be dealing with health-related challenges towards the end of the year. When Jupiter is in the 12th house and Rahu is in the 7th house, it can show separation between couples. Or if you are single, it can also show multiple relationships because Jupiter will be exalted in the 12th house, in the sign of Cancer. So it means that you can be very generous in giving love, and therefore a person can have multiple relationships on the go. Now, it doesn't mean everyone is going to have multiple relationships or everyone is going to get separated. It just means that many of you will have to make adjustments in your relationship. So, for example, if you've recently had a baby, it means that you won't be able to spend time together anymore. So you may not be able to go on holiday. You might not be able to have those date nights because now all your time is being devoted to the baby. It could be that you've had to spend a lot of time in your work and therefore your relationship might suffer because you might not be able to spend time together. So it's all about changes happening in everyone's lives as they do, and then adjusting around them. But because we are talking about the 8th house here, which your 7th Lord Saturn is in, it will be something major. For health and wellness, there can be ups and downs in health for the whole year. The year starts off with Mars in your 12th house in retrograde motion. And the 12th house is related to your sleep. And when there are malefic planets influencing this house, it can cause sleep-related issues and emotional sensitivity, which means that you can feel your emotions more intensely, especially related to your family and home environment. When Saturn transits the 7th house, it can also cause sleep-related issues. And Saturn's aspect on your 1st house can show that you can feel a little bit insecure, a little bit pessimistic, and there can be some self-doubt in your personality. The second half of the year will be a little bit more tricky because Ketu will transit into your 1st house and Rahu will move into your 7th. So you can feel emotionally worn out or mentally drained due to stress in life. So you have to take care of your mental and emotional health. Ketu in the 1st house can also show you can be neglecting your physical health too. So you might be dealing with some kind of health issue, or you might be feeling like you have some kind of health issue, but you might just be ignoring it. So this is not a time to ignore even the slightest of problems. It's important to get it checked by a doctor, because when Ketu is in the 1st house, it can give illnesses and diseases which are kind of difficult to diagnose. Ketu in the 1st house can also give stomach and abdomen related issues. Then on the 18th of October, Jupiter will move into your 12th house, which is the exaltation house for Jupiter, because it is exalted in Cancer. But in some ways, it does not give the type of results people always want, because the 12th house is about growing emotionally as a person, rather than materialistically. And it's also about healing and resolving any health-related issue. So it's quite a challenging year for health, especially the second half. So it's important with Ketu in the 1st house that you make sure that you make time for yourself. Even if it's 5 to 10 minutes a day doing meditation, it will help you. For Virgo natives, Mercury is ruling your chart, which is a very fast-moving planet, which will transit each of the houses and signs this year. So the key moment will be when Mercury goes retrograde, which will be in all the water signs. So Virgo natives, they are already a little bit indecisive because Virgo is a dual sign. So they can struggle to make up their minds. So when Mercury is retrograde, it'll be a time where you shouldn't really take important decisions. Or if you have to, it's good to consult other people. For career, the first half of the year, Saturn is in your 6th house and Jupiter will be in your 9th house. So the two heavyweight planets are in good houses. Saturn in the 6th house makes you work, and it can make you do jobs which you might not like to do. So for example, if you are mid to senior level in your role, you might have to do a few tasks which are beneath you. Regardless, this position of Saturn is good for service-related employment. Working in healthcare, schools, technology, it's very supportive as Saturn is extremely comfortable in the service and repetitive related 6th house. Now, as always, there are positives and negatives with every position. So the difficult thing here, aside from having to do tasks which you don't really want to do, is that it can lead to challenges in workplace relationships. These individuals may experience conflicts with colleagues or subordinates, often due to their high standards or critical nature. So for example, your stakeholders can come across as strict or demanding. The second half of the year, it is all change, and you will get some relief with K2 moving out of your 1st house. Rahu will be occupying your 6th house now, which will help you overcome any challenges that you may have been having with work colleagues. Rahu in the 6th house can make you very busy. So if you are someone who wants to look for a second job or a weekend job or even change your main job, Rahu can give you very beneficial results. And the good thing about Rahu here is that it will make you more focused because Aquarius is a fixed sign where your concentration is where it needs to be. There is no indecisiveness here. When Rahu is in the 6th house, you can expect location changes. So changing job or position is very much a possibility, especially since Jupiter will be in your 10th house, and therefore you can expect a rise in your status with any new job. If you are in business, the positions of Rahu and Jupiter are also good. But with Saturn in the 7th house, challenges can arise with any partnership business. On the 18th of October, Jupiter will then move into your 11th house. And for these few months before it goes retrograde back into Gemini, they can also be quite good. For finances, Saturn is in the 6th house, which will make you work. And therefore, if you are working, you can expect steady and stable income. But its aspect on the 12th house can show some medical related expenses for the first half of the year. When Jupiter is transiting the 9th house, it gives you opportunities to increase your prosperity through learning something new. So if you look at Jupiter's position, it is aspecting your 5th house, which represents stocks and shares. And if you have a side hustle or a business from which you make money, then this is a time you can develop and learn some new skills which can help you earn even more. So if you want to make money through the share market, this is a good time to learn about it, because whenever Jupiter is transiting the 9th house, it's giving you an opportunity to learn something new, expand your knowledge. And if you have more knowledge, then it gives you more opportunities to earn more money. If you are already an investor, then your products can grow. The second half of the year is good for building wealth, saving money, buying a property, because of Jupiter's position in the 10th house. So when Jupiter is in this house, it will not only grow your career, but your whole economic status will improve, and that includes your wealth. With buying a property, Saturn is also in a very good position here. And Rahu in the 6th house can help you secure a loan. So if you do want to buy a house next year, it is very beneficial after May. From the 18th of October, Jupiter will then shift into your 11th house in the sign of Cancer, and Jupiter will be exalted here, which is an excellent position for earning more money. If you are in business, you can earn a considerable amount. If you are in a service-related employment, then you can also expect a pay rise. For relationships, the first part of the year, there is a major imbalance between you and your partner. When Rahu and Ketu are occupying the 1st and 7th house axis, it can show a couple of things. It can show that you may be making a lot of sacrifices for your partner, or it can show separation or excessive sexual desires. Because Rahu in Pisces is a very romantic sign, and Rahu here wants romance. It wants a connection with someone. So if there are things lacking in your relationship, Rahu will go and find it with someone else. If you are single, then Rahu in the 7th house will help you make connections with new people. And with Pisces being such an open and expansive sign without any boundaries, a person may very well be seeing multiple people on the go. The second half of the year, once the 4 major planetary energies shift sign and houses, your Saturn will come into the 7th house. So if you happen to be a person who has been enjoying a lot of time with the opposite sex, Saturn here will bring a dose of realism. So any connection or connections you may have formed, they will now go, and you will have to be practical and realistic about what exactly you want out of a relationship. If you are older and if you have been married for a long time, then Saturn in the 7th house is much easier to deal with because your foundations can already be pretty strong. That's not to say that you won't have any problems, but generally speaking, those that are married for 30 years or plus, this transit of Saturn will be much easier to deal with. Those that are newly married or in a new relationship within the past few years will have to work on building the foundation of your marriage and relationship. It does get a little bit easier because when Jupiter moves into your 11th house on the 18th of October, it is good for relationships. Even Jupiter in the 10th house is okay for relationships, so it's not all doom and gloom. It just depends on how your relationship has been functioning. If it's purely based on romance and attraction, then issues can be there. But otherwise, if you are practical, then it should be okay. For health and wellness, with Ketu in your 1st house, you may have been struggling the past 12 months, where your personality has become pessimistic. So for the first half of this year, Mars and Jupiter will be in retrograde motion. So along with Ketu in the 1st house, you can start the year being very low on energy the first few months of the year. There can be minor stomach or blood related issues, but Saturn in the 6th house is protecting you by forcing you to show more attention to detail with your health. Ketu is a bit like Mars, so when it transits the 1st house, it can show accidents, cuts and bruises, so you should take care whilst driving or doing any physical exercises. The second half of the year, you will get some relief as Ketu will move from your 1st house into your 12th house, so this will reduce some mental tension which you may have been accumulating the past 18 months. Rahu will also be in your 6th house in a very, very strong sign. So out of all the houses that Rahu can occupy for Virgo natives, the 6th house is the best for you because not only is Rahu in a good house, but it is also in a good sign. So therefore, the second half of the year, in terms of your, wellness, you'll be drawn to alternative and unconventional healing and unique wellness practices. So you might decide to take up meditation, yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi. You might look into acupuncture, Reiki. So definitely something outside of the mainstream. Aquarius sign is to do with things outside the norm. So even your daily schedule can be unorthodox when Rahu is in your 6th house. So you can be taking cold showers or doing intermittent fasting or getting up at 5 a.m. every day. So there will be something different that you do, something you may not have done before. For Libra natives, Venus is the lord of your chart, which means that harmony, fairness, good relationships and communication means a lot to you. So the past year and past 2 years actually, Saturn and Jupiter have been in difficult houses. So you may have gone through a lot of, challenges. But the good news is from mid-May 2025, or the second half of 2025, it will be much better for you in all your areas of life. For career, Saturn is in your 5th house, and regardless of what sign it is in, it is not really a positive placement for service-related employment, unless you are working in a creative or political or any other 5th house profession. Saturn in the 5th house can cause changes in your career and loss of job. So at the start of the year, Mars will be in your 10th house, which is a good house. However, the condition of the house is not ideal because Mars will be debilitated and currently it is also retrograde. So that doesn't mean that it will be exalted. So when Mars is debilitated and retrograde, it means that the energy is very scattered because Cancer is a very movable sign and volatile sign where Mars cannot really focus. So this means that you are not sure where your career is going, or you are not sure which steps you should take. So instead of the energy being channeled, it is scattered all over the place. So your thinking can be scattered all over the place. Rahu is in a good house, but not in a good sign. So unless you're working in health or social care, Rahu can also make you change jobs, or your work can be very, very busy or very messy, I should say. So things may not be streamlined and doing simple things may take a long time. If you are in business, then this is very different. Saturn in the 5th house is excellent because your 5th house lord is in the 5th house. So this position of Saturn means that this is a time to work on your self-expression, which you have probably been doing the last couple of years. So this is good for employed folks, freelancers, and any creative or technology business can give powerful results as long as you work hard. After mid-year, once the major planetary energies move sign and houses, it will be a better year for service-related employment. So regardless which area you are working in, Saturn in the 6th house will bring some realism and stability to your work. Now Pisces, it represents comfort, and Saturn can make your work environment a little bit uncomfortable. So there could be difficult colleagues, stakeholders, perhaps the location or the condition of your job is not ideal for you. So you can also be asked to do tasks or jobs which are a little bit beneath you. Because remember, Saturn is a dedicated servant and it represents low class. So whatever he is asked to do, he does it. And this is what you will have to do. So this is a good position as long as you are not fussy. If there is work to be done and you can get on with it, then that is fine. Jupiter will be in your 9th house, and the 9th house is the best house for Jupiter to be in because it can bring tons of opportunities to learn. And if you can stay humble enough, because Rahu will be in your 5th house, so your ego will definitely be more pronounced. But if you can stay humble and accept any learnings, it will help you in your career. From the 18th of October, Jupiter will then move into your 10th house for a few months before going retrograde back into your 9th house. So in the 10th house, it will be exalted because it will be in the sign of Cancer. So here you will get lots of opportunities to grow your career. You could find a good opportunity in another country, another city. You could get 2-3 job offers, because Cancer is a sign which doesn't really have any restrictions. So Jupiter will be bringing so much, so it's up to you which opportunity you want to take. For business, Rahu will be in your 5th house of Aquarius. So this is excellent for those that have a technology or creative type of business. Whatever the hard work you have put in the past 2.5 years, you can really grow and get the fruits of your work. Jupiter will also be in your 9th house, aspecting your 3rd and 5th house, which means that you will have good energy levels. So good times for career and business the second half of the year. For finances, the first half of the year, another reason why Saturn is not good in the 5th house is because it restricts your income, or there is very slow growth because of its aspect on both your money houses, the 11th house and 2nd house. So your income can be stable if your job is stable, but it's difficult to expedite your financial growth. The exception is if you are working in a 5th house profession. So when Saturn is in the 5th house, it aspects your 11th house, so your income can be good if it's coming from the 5th house. Rahu in the 6th house and Jupiter in the 8th house may have also helped you improve your finances the latter half of 2024, and it will continue to help you better your finances. But Jupiter in the 8th house, in the sign of Taurus, shows being supported by other people, because the 8th house represents other people's money, either your partner's money, or Taurus also represents your family's money and assets. So through other people, you can improve your finances. You can also gain inheritance, tax refunds, and investment winnings. After mid-year, Saturn, Jupiter, Rahu and Ketu will all move signs and houses. So Jupiter will be in your 9th house, which is excellent for increasing prosperity in your life because it will bring you lots of opportunities where you can learn, grow, and if you want to learn about new ways to make money. Jupiter can also help you here because in this house, it is all about increasing your knowledge. Ketu will be in your 11th house, so this position can make a person a little bit unsatisfied with the money they are earning. So you may be earning a lot, or whatever amount you are earning, you are not content with it. Ketu here can also bring multiple sources of income. It can give you income which you didn't really work for, including unexpected and unconventional gains. For relationships, Mars is ruling your 7th house in your chart. And as I mentioned earlier, it will be retrograde for a while, and it will spend the first 6 months of the year between your 9th and 10th houses. So when the 7th Lord is retrograde, first of all, it means that things are not straightforward in your relationship. There can be hidden issues, unclear dynamics, and mixed signals. So there are complications whoever you are with, or if you are trying to find and form a relationship. In addition, Saturn is also making things a little bit difficult with its aspect on the 7th house. So what that means is there's a lot of work to be done in your relationship or marriage. The second half of the year, Saturn will no longer have a major influence on your 7th house because it will be in your 6th house. So it will bring some relief. Jupiter will be in your 9th house. So this is a time now where your life will grow. Your life will expand. Luck will come into your life. You'll be optimistic. And this is a time you can get married. You can find a partner. or if you're already married, you could have children because Jupiter is aspecting your 5th house. If you are single, you can find someone. So whatever you need to grow in your life, Jupiter can give you this. So good potential during the second half of the year. Then on the 18th of October, Jupiter will move into your 10th house, where it will be exalted. So the 10th house shows the happiness from a relationship, from marriage, happiness from a partnership. So you can expect a good amount of happiness in your relationship the whole second half of the year. For health and wellness, when Jupiter is in the 8th house, it means that you have lost some control of your life. There's been or there will be major changes that you are going through that you have to try and cope with. So you may have experienced this already the past 4 or 5 months, but this transformation you are going through can continue until mid-2025. The transformation can be related to health or work because Jupiter is ruling your 6th house. It could be a personal transformation, which is the process of changing who you are and becoming the person you want to be. Transformation could be moving to a new country. So when Jupiter is in the 8th house, it means that you have some sort of support to deal with the transformation. So it's not like you are on your own. Well, you might be on your own, but there is some level of support there. And when Jupiter is aspecting the 12th house, it means that you have to let go of something from the past. You have to let go of any grudges or feelings that you hold. You have to let them go. Then only you can transform yourself and take advantage of the opportunities when Jupiter moves into your 9th house. Now, the second half of the year, Saturn and Jupiter will be in good houses. Rahu and Ketu are also in not bad positions. However, with every placement, there can always be something, positive and negative. So if we look at your 4th house, its Lord Saturn is in Pisces, and Jupiter in the 9th house is 6 from the 4th house. So this shows that there can be some discomfort in your home environment. But otherwise, with Saturn in your 6th house, it will help you control any health-related issues. You will show more attention to detail over any problems. And Venus is the lord of your chart. And the sensitive points of Venus during 2025 will be during the months of September and October. So you might have to deal with some change or issues during those months. For Scorpio natives, so Mars is the lord of your chart, and it will start the year in retrograde motion, transiting through your 9th house and then back into your 8th house before turning direct and going through your 8th and 9th houses again. So it's spending a lot of time in Gemini and Cancer for the first half of the year. Mars is a goal-orientated planet, so when it is retrograde, you will be reassessing your career and life goals. Mars also represents energy, so any energy or effort you have put in where you haven't got the desired results, you can get them when Mars is retrograde. Alternatively, when Mars is debilitated in Cancer, your energy can be scattered around rather than being channeled, which can cause some mental and physical fatigue. For career, the first part of the year, Saturn, which is the natural significator of career, will continue its transit in your 4th house. Now, generally Saturn is not good for the significations of the 4th house, but when it comes to career, Saturn's position here is not too bad. Here, Saturn encourages a person to focus their mind on their work, and your responsibilities can be at the forefront of your mind. From the 4th house, Saturn is aspecting your 6th house and 10th house, so it is bringing structure, discipline, and a good work ethic to your career. When Saturn is influencing the 6th and 10th houses, it is, however, difficult to move up the career ladder. Instead, it's a good time to enhance the foundations of your role. This position of Saturn is, however, positive for those who work in land, real estate, agriculture, and those who are working from home. Saturn in the 4th house means a person can work from the comfort of their own home. So therefore, if you are doing freelancing, you're a YouTuber, you have your own studio at home, this position is supportive for any work you do at home, whether it's your business or whether it's your service-related job. Now, Mars is also playing a role here because it is your 6th house lord. And as I mentioned in the beginning, Mars is going through a fairly long transit between your 8th and 9th houses. So it's been debilitated, it's retrograde, so there's a lot going on. So when we think about the 6th house, it is associated with work, our approach to work. So when Mars is in your 8th house or 9th house, these are very dynamic houses, which can cause changes in your job or conflict with those in leadership positions. So while Saturn's aspect on the 6th and 10th house can bring structure and discipline, as I mentioned earlier, it can also cause challenges with colleagues. So there are always positives and negatives with every placement of a planet. For those who are in business, this can be a little bit better because your Jupiter is well placed for the first half of the year, influencing all the Karma Trikona houses, which are the 3rd, 7th, and 11th. And these houses are especially important to look at when looking at business. Additionally, Rahu is also in your 5th house, which can help your creativity soar. So if you are working as a web designer or you have your own design business, the first half of the year will be very good. And Mars in Cancer will also help you because water signs are the most creative. The second half of the year, Saturn will move into your 5th house, while Ketu will transit your 10th house. So this phase will continue to be good for those who have their own freelancing business, who are self-employed, and those that are involved with any creative or healthcare job. The 5th house is all about self-expression, and when Pisces sits in this house, it can help your creativity expand. And when Saturn comes here, whatever dreams or aspirations you have, Saturn can help you turn them into a reality. So if you have a dream of becoming a fashion designer or an artist or writing romantic novels, this is a perfect time to start that kind of business. When Ketu is in the 10th house, it doesn't like working for someone else. It can feel dissatisfied and disinterested. So when Ketu is in the 10th house, it's a good time to be your own boss. Now, if you are employed in a service-related job, this position of Saturn and Ketu is not that supportive. Ketu in the 10th house represents a change of job, but it is not always a positive change. Ketu in the 10th house can also show disinterest in career, a fall of position, and extended breaks in your job. Saturn in the 5th house can also show multiple changes in service-related employment. But the exception is, there are always exceptions. So if you happen to work in a creative field or a political field, then the results are not too bad. If your job involves working with children or within the stock exchange, then again it is not too bad. So any job signified by the 5th house is not too bad. But again, Ketu in the 10th house, there are high chances for most of the Scorpio moon people of a change of job. For finance, K2 has been transiting your 11th house for the past 12 months. So this might have made you dissatisfied with the amount of money you are earning. This might have caused some significant breaks in your job, or your general attitude towards money can be of disinterest. On a positive note, K2 in the 11th house can show two sources of income. It can show dual income because it is in a dual sign. It can show passive income that you didn't really work for that can land into your bank account. So for example, you might have got some inheritance, or you might have won a prize, or your investments may have done well. So it's not always negative with K2 in the 11th house. And especially since Jupiter has been aspecting K2, and Jupiter is in the 7th house. So there is a strong indication of money through partnership. So this is a good time, for example, to do a lottery syndicate, where a group of people from work will select some numbers, and although your numbers may not be the winning ones, but somebody in your group will have the winning numbers, and that's how you can benefit. So the way to look at it is that it has to involve the house where Jupiter is sitting. So think how the 7th house can benefit your 11th house, and it can give you that result. The second half of the year, when all four of the major planetary energies have changed sign and houses, Saturn will be in your 5th house. And I don't really consider 5th house Saturn as a great placement, unless of course you're working in a 5th house profession or have your own business. With all other types of jobs, Saturn here can show that the money you earn can be restricted because of Saturn's aspect on your 11th house and 2nd house. So it's tightening the screw. However, the good thing about Saturn's 11th house and 2nd house aspect is that it will bring some awareness. How are you saving money? It will put you in a situation where you'll be forced to show more discipline with your money rather than spending freely. So in one way, it is good because it is teaching a lesson. Be cautious, save money, and use it wisely. Jupiter will be in your 8th house during this time. So it means that your financial growth, so any financial growth that happens, can come through other people's money, such as inheritance, investments, and lucrative financial partnerships. If you are in a relationship, it can be a time where your spouse is providing. So in one way it can be good that you are being supported, but you are also losing some control by not being equal or the dominant person in the relationship. Jupiter in the 8th house is aspecting the 4th house. So this shows that you can buy a property in a foreign country. The 8th house here represents the bank's money, which is the loan you use to buy your house. Jupiter will then move into your 9th house on the 18th of October. And this is a much better period, although it is only for a short time, before it goes retrograde back into Gemini. In the 9th house, Jupiter can give you opportunities to increase prosperity in your life. So this is a time your father can be a source of money, or you will find opportunities to increase your wealth. For relationships, the first half of the year, Jupiter will remain in your 7th house. So this is a great time to find someone if you are single. If you are already in a relationship, this is a time you can get married or take your relationship to the next stage. So Jupiter's position here is all about expanding a relationship or bringing happiness to a relationship. It could well be that you want to get divorced. So this is a time a divorce can be finalized if that is something that makes you happy. So it's all about bringing you optimism in this house. So either bringing two people together or separating two people. During the first half of the year, Mars will also spend a little bit of time in your 8th house. And the 8th house, it represents shared resources and values. So when Mars is in the 8th house in the natal chart or in transit, it can cause some disagreement between couples. Sometimes things will not line up. So there can be a little bit of conflict, especially if you are in your 20s. The second half of the year can be full of challenges, however, because Saturn will be in your 5th house. So if you do end up getting married the first half of the year, for example, or you find someone who you can have a relationship with, then the next step is obviously building the foundation of your connection. So aside from romance or being intimate, which is normally the first part of building a bond in a relationship, Saturn here will say, okay, the honeymoon period is now over. It's time to get serious. So over the next few years, while Saturn is influencing your 5th and 7th house, you will need to build trust, respect, communication. And all of this will form the bedrock upon which everything else can be built. The good news is Jupiter will be in your 8th house. And while this position has its challenges, for relationships, this position of Jupiter can support you and your partner. So for example, money can be one of the big causes of fights in a relationship. So if financially there are no issues or there is a common understanding, then obviously the base of your relationship is strong. So Jupiter in the 8th house can ensure a solid financial base from where you start from. If you have been married for a long time, then you can feel like your marriage is boring. You are not really excited and the joy might not be there anymore. So you might only be together because of kids, or after being married for so many years, you could just have a platonic relationship, which may just suit you. So therefore, this position will not cause you any issues. For health and wellness, Saturn is in your 4th house at the start of the year. And while this can be good for career, it is not good for your emotional well-being. There can be some stress and discomfort with your family or the place you are living in, and Saturn here can break your emotional foundation. So to a great extent, everyone is shaped by their family and culture, and you develop a set of beliefs which get you through life. Saturn here can throw a curveball or a difficult event such as a loss of a loved one. Health challenges where there can be an awakening of a different identity, where you need to rebuild your identity or emotional foundation. So Saturn has already been in your 4th house for about 2 years. So if you have been going through this, the phase will now be coming to an end the first half of 2025. The second half of the year, when Saturn moves into your 5th house, Jupiter will be in your 8th house. So again, there can be a challenging time because you will be going through major changes in your life. The good thing about Jupiter in the 8th house is that even though there will be major changes in your life, Jupiter will show you the way forward. Because Jupiter is a teacher, the greatest benefic. So for example, if you're suffering from any major health issue in 2025, somebody will come and heal you. If you are completely lost in your life, mentally, emotionally, someone will come and show you the way. So this is a time where issues with children or pregnancy can also pop up. Anything related to back, stomach and pancreas can be a concern. For Sagittarius natives, Jupiter is the lord of your chart, and at the start of 2025, it will continue transiting your 6th house. So the last 6 months and the next 6 months, you will continue to be extremely busy in your life, with so much going on related to work, property and finances. Then after mid-2025, when Jupiter moves into your 7th house, the focus will shift to relationships. The first area of life, which is your career, Jupiter will be transiting your 6th house at the start of the year. So as I mentioned, you will continue to be very busy in your work the first 6 months of the year. When Jupiter is in this house, it brings growth and expansion, and therefore opportunities will be there to change your job or role if you haven't done so already the past 6 months. Now K2 has been in your 10th house for the past year or so, and this is generally not a good position for K2 because of Jupiter's position and aspect, the negative effects of K2 can be slightly reduced depending on your natal chart. With these two energies, what can happen is that you might be putting in a tremendous amount of effort, but you may not be getting all the recognition or results you feel you deserve, which can be a reason for a job change. When K2 is in the 10th house, a person can also feel less driven or less career orientated. You might be content with the level of your role at the moment and not particularly interested in additional responsibilities or career progression. K2 can bring dissatisfaction in your career, so you might not be feeling overly optimistic or excited about your job anymore. With Saturn in the 3rd house, K2 in the 10th house and Jupiter in your 6th house, if we analyze all three of these planets together, it can show a person who has to travel frequently for work, where you might have to go to different sites, different cities, or even different countries. K2 can show difficulty in building stability, and obviously if you are constantly moving around in your job, you don't have the stability of being in one place. Now, if you are in business, this is a different story. So firstly, Saturn in the 3rd house is a perfect time to start a business of some sort, because here you can really build a strong foundation. If you have a strong foundation for your business, it is likely that it can run for a long time. And K2 in the 10th house is actually supportive of a business which involves movement. So for example, a mobile beautician, just as an example, or some sort of mobile position where you're not really staying in one place and constantly on the move, which is what K2 in the 10th house can show. The second half of the year, it is all change. Saturn will move into your 4th house, which can give some mixed results, but including some positives as well. So this can be a time where you can find yourself working remotely or working from home because the 4th house is your home. Saturn here is also good for those that are working in real estate, including home decorating, building, and also those who are involved with agriculture. The aspect of Saturn on the 6th and 10th house is about bringing stability to your profession, but it makes it difficult to grow or move forward in your role when Saturn is aspecting the 6th and 10th house. So the first 6 months of the year, you should really make the most of it in terms of changing jobs or applying for higher positions. Once Saturn moves into the 4th house, it is all about sticking to what you are doing, and it's more challenging to change or progress. For business, Rahu will move into your 3rd house, and Jupiter will be in your 7th house. So this is very supportive for individual businesses and partnership businesses. Even if you are a sole trader or self-employed, this is the time you should acknowledge the advice of other people. Because when Jupiter is in the 7th house and aspecting the 3rd house, your guidance can come through other people, including feedback from customers. For finances, the first part of the year, as we mentioned, Jupiter is in your 6th house in the sign of Taurus. So the 6th house is all about debt, and it can show a person applying and being successful in obtaining a loan. And this loan could be related to any 4th house matter. Rahu is in your 4th house, so all the energy is kind of pointing to you trying to seek comfort. Therefore, there are strong chances of buying a property, doing home improvement, buying a car, any medical expenses, or any other large purchase. When the 4th house lord Jupiter is in the 6th house, and with Mars, the natural significator of property, also in the 8th house, and Mars will move back and forth from your 7th and 8th houses. So there can be minor property related issues the first half of the year. So if you are already facing issues, or you might have already bought a property, which is great, any potential issues that you will face or are facing will gradually reduce as the year goes on. So you just have to be a little bit patient. Saturn is your 2nd house lord, and when it is transiting the 3rd house, that can show that your money is coming through your self efforts. Therefore, it's good for those that are in business. Slow but steady, and if you work hard, by the end of Saturn's transit in the 3rd house, you might have saved quite a bit of money. Jupiter is also aspecting your 2nd house, and it's giving its support for financial growth and expansion. The second part of the year, Jupiter will move into your 7th house. And this house can give mixed results, but largely they can come across as positive. Here, Jupiter is aspecting your 11th house. So you can expect an increment in your salary. It could just be like a yearly pay increase, or it could be something more than that. Jupiter here, because it is in the 7th house, it means that your income can increase because of a partner or someone you might know. So for example, you might want to change your job, and you have a friend working in a company and they can get you a new job. But as I mentioned when talking about career, Saturn's aspect on the 10th house can give sideways change rather than progression. So you may earn more money, but the level of the role would be the same. Jupiter in the 7th house means that you should acknowledge any guidance you get from your partner or spouse. So they might give you advice, and you should highly consider it, because when Jupiter is in the 7th house, the good results has to involve the people of this house, which could be your spouse, friend, or if you run a business like a restaurant, take the feedback from customers, because it will help you increase your money. Aside from that, Jupiter's transit in the 7th house will also help you resolve any contract issues. When K2 is transiting in the 9th house, you can experience sudden unexpected changes in your life. It will be something big, especially if you are in your 20s, 30s and 40s. The 1st, 5th and 9th houses are naturally fiery houses, and all three of these houses can show initiating something new. And because the 9th house is the strongest of these trine houses, it can show a major change in your life when a planet is transiting this house. And when that planet is K2, it's all about a sudden change in your life, or unexpected change in your life. So it could be related to your belief system, travel, or involving relationships. For relationships, when the lord of the chart, Jupiter, is transiting a sign ruled by Venus, you can expect to make some connections, but it's difficult to progress that relationship or connection. Jupiter's transit in the 6th house in Taurus means that you can definitely find someone, come across people, especially when Rahu is in Pisces, because Pisces is a very romantic sign. So if you are searching for someone to have a fling with or a spark with, you can do that. But Ketu in the 10th house can also make it difficult to maintain a relationship. So if you are in a married or committed situation, there can definitely be a lack of happiness in your connection. After mid-year, Jupiter will move into your 7th house, and this is a position which can give happiness in relation to this house. So firstly, if you are single, Jupiter, which is the lord of your chart, means that you have to make the first move to find someone. So if you are a girl and you are single and you see someone you like, you have to make the first move. You have to do the chasing when the 1st house lord is in the 7th house, which means that you have to go to that house. If it was the other way around, where the 7th lord is in the 1st house, it means that someone will come to you. Jupiter in the 7th house can bring marriage, but it can also bring divorce if that is something that you want. On the 18th of October, Jupiter will then move into your 8th house, which means that you will go through some kind of major transformation or change in your life. As I spoke earlier about Ketu causing a major change, the period between October, November and December can be huge for you. But not to worry, because Jupiter in the 8th house will be exalted. So for some of you, I can see you meeting someone, getting married and moving in with them, all within 6 months. But whatever change you have to go through, it could be health related to your mother. If you are feeling emotionally or mentally lost, there will be a path for you and you will be able to find your way forward. When Jupiter is in the 8th house, you are losing some of your control in your life, and it's a time where you have to give up some of your things for your partner. For health and wellness, some Sagittarius natives will be dealing with some difficult health challenges because the lord of your chart, Jupiter, is in the 6th house, which represents diseases. So this can continue until mid-2025. It can be any health-related issue depending on which area is weak in your natal chart. So at the moment, your 4th house is vulnerable because Rahu is transiting here. So anything related to your heart, chest and lungs area, you have to take care. And also you have to take care of your mental health, because when Rahu is in the 4th house, you can act unconventionally in order to find happiness or fulfill a desire. So you do have to be very careful what you engage in. In the second half of the year, Saturn and Rahu will swap houses. So when Rahu was in the 4th house, your thinking, your expectations of what happiness should be can be unrealistic. So unrealistic expectations. Now, when Saturn is in the 4th house, it will bring a dose of reality. Anything you may have imagined, invented, or any theoretical ideas you had in your mind the past 12 to 18 months, you will now get to see the reality, which can sometimes be painful. And that is why wherever Rahu is transiting, it's important to remain grounded, realistic and practical. So for example, when Rahu is in the 4th house, you can be desperate to buy a house. But when Saturn comes into the 4th house now, you can feel like, why did I buy this place? I should have considered this. I should have considered that. So there could be some regret in how you have acted and the decisions you have made the past 12 months. In terms of mental health, you can feel pessimistic. Whenever Saturn is in the fourth house, it's difficult to feel completely happy. But on the 18th of October, Jupiter will shift into your 8th house, where it will aspect Saturn. And therefore, towards the last quarter of the year, your mood can improve. There can be changes in residence. You can move overseas. So your mood will improve and your overall mental well-being will improve towards the end of the year. For Capricorn natives, so this year will bring some relief because the Lord of your chart, Saturn, will move into your third house, which is a much better house for Saturn to be in. And if you are following transits from the moon, which you should also follow, then your Sarasati will also be ending and you will feel the pressure has eased in your life. For career, the first half of the year or up until the end of March, Saturn will be transiting your second house, which it has been doing the past 2 years. And when Saturn transits the second house or the 6th house or the 10th house, it means that you have to put in a lot of effort in your career and progression doesn't come that easily. Like, for example, when Jupiter is transiting those houses, the career progression can flow quite well. But with Saturn, it makes it a little bit more challenging. So you have to continue working hard if you are in a service-related employment. But you can get positive results if you are working in finance, banking and asset management. Now, there can also be some sudden changes in your job or the company you are working in. Because when Jupiter transits the 5th house, it can bring some major change where a person could change their line of work or profession or something which is either initiated by you or the company you are working for. So for example, it could be like a restructure where your role might have changed. If you are in business, you would have had a fairly decent 2024, and this will continue up until mid-2025. When Rahu is transiting the 3rd house and Jupiter is in the 5th house, it is excellent for any creative type of business, which can involve writing, painting, if you are an artist, anything involving your hands, like for example playing a musical instrument. You might get opportunities to perform and make money, and this can include photography, even web design, decorating, building and carpentry. So they all have an element of Venus and Mars energy. So if you have a business related to any of that, 2025 can start off quite well for you. By the second half of the year, Saturn will have moved into your 3rd house, while Jupiter will move into your 6th house. So the second half of the year is a much better time to change jobs, where you will be able to find the opportunities to move ahead in your career. However, any new job you take will require you to work much harder, and you will find yourself having a lot more responsibilities than in 2024. When Jupiter is in the 6th house and aspecting your 10th house, it means that the harder you work, the more responsibilities you take on, the more your public image and reputation can grow for the better. And when Saturn is in the 3rd house, you have to improve on your communication skills by being more empathetic, giving positive feedback, and being more understanding, because Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, where you have to take on a more compassionate and creative communication style. So if you already work in areas such as healthcare or creativity, then this condition of Saturn will not cause you too many issues. However, working in any other areas means that you have to improve on how you communicate. Saturn in the 3rd house is good, but because it is in the sign of Pisces, it means that it's not completely comfortable, because Pisces is a boundless sign and Saturn represents limitations and boundaries. So these two energies do not complement each other very well. So with Saturn in Pisces, you can find yourself having to take frequent trips or travel for work. If you are in a creative type of business, Saturn in Pisces is a time where you need to balance creativity with practicality in order to solve any possible problems. And I'm not saying that there will be problems, but say, for example, you have a new business idea, and instead of just going through with it, you have to consider a realistic implementation plan. So any new ideas you have for your business, you have to be very practical, and then you shouldn't have any problems. For finances, it'll be a mixed start to the year. Some challenges could be there in growing your personal finances with Saturn's position in the second house, which you may have experienced the last couple of years. And also if you are in a service-related employment and you are under the age of 40. But if you are over 40 and your career is quite strong, then the start of the year will continue to be fairly good. Saturn is good in the second house if you are over the age of 40. And it is important to look at a person's age because Saturn, it represents old age, experience and endurance. So if you have these qualities, then you can get more out of this transit. Whereas if you are under the age of 36 and you change your job every year, then you may not be able to grow your assets as much. Having said that, Jupiter will be in your 5th house, aspecting your 11th house, and this shows strong gains through business, through investment the first part of the year. And if you are in business or you are earning through your own self-efforts, then Saturn in the second house can grow your personal finances, because the second house lord and the first house lord is in the second house, so it has to come through your own self-efforts. So it does make a difference whether you are in business or employment. If you are employed working for someone, then your capacity to earn is limited. Whereas if you have your own business, then you are in control of your earning, and then it is possible to make big bucks. The second half of the year can continue to be good, or if the first half of the year isn't good for you, then the second half will be a significant improvement, because Rahu will move into your second house and it will have the aspect of Jupiter. Rahu is very good in the second house, and especially it is very good in Aquarius, because Aquarius is a fixed sign and it is a little bit unconventional, where it pushes the boundaries Saturn has created. So it is really good. It is a really good time to earn money, again, especially if you are in business. Second Lord Saturn in the third house again shows good earning capacity through your own efforts. And Jupiter's placement in the 6th house means that the harder you work, the more money you can earn. Even if you are in a service-based employment, you will be earning more the second half of 2025. Now, one caution, the 6th house, it represents work, service, but it also represents obstacles and debts. And while Rahu in the second house is good, it is also an energy that makes you spend money on things you value, and it can also take things away. And because we are talking about Capricorn, Moon or Ascendant here, and Capricorns are generally cautious in terms of spending money. But in some cases, Jupiter's aspect on the second house can show debt-related issues or obstacles and challenges with personal finances, So if you do have a history of personal financial issues, or you feel like something like that could pop up in 2025, then you have to take good care of your personal finances. For relationships, when Saturn is in the second house, it affects the relationship with your family and those in your immediate environment. You can feel a heavy burden of family obligations, especially if you are in your 20s and 30s. So you may have already gone through a really challenging couple of years. But the good news is that it will now get much better now that Saturn is set to transit your third house. If you are single, up until May, while Jupiter is transiting the fifth house, it can bring bliss into your love life. You can meet people, fall in love, and create a bond between you and the person you meet. You can cherish affectionate moments. So the first part of the year is better for those who are single. For the second half of the year, if you have been dealing with issues in your relationship or marriage the last few years, then the second half of the year is when there can be some sort of separation from your partner. So if you look at the combination of planets, when Rahu and Ketu are in your second and eighth house axis, because Rahu and Ketu will be transiting the second and eighth house, it can cause separation because it shows a time where your values do not match or reconcile anymore with your partner. So when Rahu is transiting the second house, it means that you are identifying more with yourself, your family, your way of doing things, which can cause a major imbalance in relationships. If you are someone who is Ketu dominated, where you are more inclined to let your partner have their way, then this Rahu and Ketu combination will not cause as much of an issue. So it's all about how you handle this energy, and you have to try to balance the energy. And that is the remedy, rather than wearing gemstones or doing worship. If you are already in a very equal relationship with your other half, then this period will not cause you any issues. If you are female, then Jupiter is the natural significator of husband. And when it is transiting the sixth house, it means that your spouse can be suffering from health-related issues. So therefore, this Rahu and Ketu transit in the 2-8 axis can show separation due to your partner's health. Then on the 18th of October, Jupiter will move into your 7th house. So Jupiter is whizzing through your 6th house quite rapidly, but it will return back into your 6th house at the end of the year. But it will spend a little bit of time in your 7th house before that, which is good for marriage. So this is a time you can find a new partner. You can take your relationship to the next stage. You might be able to get back together with your partner. Or if you have been separated, then this transit can also bring divorce, if that is something that makes you happy. For health, the Lord of your chart, Saturn, is transiting your second house, which may need some attention. So Saturn has been there for the last couple of years and will be there until the end of March. And Saturn can cause challenges with your second house significations, which can include speech, eyesight, teeth, and any of the senses. Mars at the moment is retrograde, and it's going back and forth between your 6th and 7th house. So what that can mean is that the first half of the year you can be going through recurring health related issues. The second half of the year, Rahu will move into your second house. So you have to be careful of any eye-related problems or disorders. So take care of your vision. When Rahu is in the second house, it's a time where you may be prescribed spectacles, or you may have to put something artificial in your eye, such as eye drops, to relieve some type of eye condition. Rahu in the second house also means that you have to be careful what you eat and what you put in your mouth. So you have to be careful of your diet. And especially since Jupiter is in the sixth house, it can cause stomach related issues. Jupiter is also the lord of the 12th house. And when it is in the sixth house, it means that there is something in your daily life, something in your routine, which you need to reduce or eliminate. So for example, if you are suffering from heart related issues, your doctor might tell you to cut down on red meat. Or if you are diabetic, you'll need to look after your sugar levels. For Aquarius natives, Saturn is the lord of your chart, and it will continue its transit in your first house. So in one way, it is good because the first house lord is in the first house. So it's positive in the sense that it will bring you new things in your life. But there will be plenty of obstacles which you will have to navigate through. Then at the start of April, Saturn will be in your second house. And this will bring a lot of energy around your finances and family. So the first area of life, which is your career, Saturn is in your first house. So this shows lots of responsibilities on your shoulder. You could be dealing with stressful situations at work, but because Saturn is in a strong sign, you will be able to organize and manage your workload quite effectively. When Saturn is in the first house in Aquarius and Jupiter is aspecting your 10th house, there is a strong indication of career upliftment. So you may have already experienced this in 2024, but if you haven't and you would like to change your job, it is a good time during the first half of the year to find another opportunity. Mars will also transit back and forth between your 5th and 6th houses. So while it is retrograde, you can be low on energy, but there are strong indications of changes which will happen at your work. When Mars is influencing the 6th house and Rahu is in your 2nd house, it can cause changes in your job, working patterns, working location, changes to your role. So some sort of changes in your work can be in the pipeline. Mars is a planet that separates things. It breaks things. So something will be changing in your daily routine. And with Mars's rulership of your 10th house, it can likely be something related to your career. If you are in a business, it's a similar story. Saturn in the first house is giving you challenges, lots of responsibilities, and really making you a workaholic. Mars's condition will make you low on energy, which could be due to your lifestyle or stress from work. Now, the second half of the year, when all the major planets have shifted signs and houses, Saturn will be in your second house of Pisces. So this is a very good position for those that are involved with any creative endeavors. It's also very good because it is a sign of Pisces, which is the most creative sign in the zodiac. And Pisces is a dreamer. Saturn is a realist. So this is all about making your dreams a reality. And this is further supported by Jupiter's transit in your 5th house. This combination of Jupiter in the 5th house and Saturn in the 2nd house can also bring sudden changes in your career. However, the changes between May and October can be a sideways step rather than progressing upwards. If you want career upliftment, the first half of the year is better, and the last 3 months of the year is also good, because Jupiter on the 18th of October will move again into your 6th house, and here it will aspect your 10th house. So your daily routine will become busy again, and you can gain a career upliftment. For finances, Jupiter is the ruler of your money houses, which are the 2nd and 11th house, and it's comfortably sitting in the 4th house, where it can bring emotional fulfillment in financial matters. This means that there are strong opportunities to buy or sell a property the first half of the year. Or perhaps you may have bought or sold one towards the latter part of 2024. If you don't buy a property, you will try to make your existing home more luxurious, because Jupiter is transiting Venus's sign of Taurus, which can signify beautifying your home. Jupiter in the 4th house can also show gains through your mother. Rahu is also transiting a good house and in the sign of Pisces. So Pisces is a boundless sign, which means that there is no end in the limit of increasing your wealth. However, because the sign of Pisces is sitting in the 2nd house, and Rahu is not really a cautious energy, it's a type of energy that likes to earn big but also spend big. So you can also be spending a lot of money on things you value and things you like. The second half of the year, Saturn would have moved into your 2nd house, while Rahu would have moved into your 1st house. So when Rahu transits a 1st house, you will be quite spendthrift, especially if you are single, and you will be spending a lot on dating, fun, and enjoyment. You will also be spending a lot on yourself. And Saturn in the 2nd house, especially if you are under the age of 40, in the sign of Pisces, shows that it's very difficult to save money, because the sign of Pisces is all about letting go, surrendering your money. And even if you are trying to save money, it will be hard. There won't be any structure or boundaries. So you really have to be careful how you spend money, especially if you are just middle class. Jupiter will be in a good position in your 5th house. But an important thing to note is that it will be moving very quickly. And in October, it will have shifted into your 6th house. So between May and October, your earnings can be fairly good, and you can gain through investment, children, and any creative business. But then by mid-October, Jupiter would have shifted into your 6th house, and this is a time you have to be very careful. Rahu in the 1st house is not a reliable position. Saturn will be in a difficult sign in your 2nd house, and 11th house Lord Jupiter will be in a Dusthana house, which is the 6th house. And Jupiter will move back into your 5th house, but between October and December, you have to take extra care of your finances. For relationships, unfortunately, this is not the most ideal year. The first half of the year, Saturn is aspecting your 7th house, and Rahu and Ketu is creating an imbalance between your values and family and your spouse's values and their family. So there is some issue, some disagreement between couples. In addition, Mars will be transiting your 5th and 6th houses. And when Mars is in the 6th house and Ketu is in your 8th house, your 7th house is being surrounded by 2 negative energies, which can affect your relationship or the health of your spouse. The second half of the year, Rahu and Ketu will move into your 1st and 7th houses. So Ketu in the 7th house is a bit like Mars. It can cause some breaks in your relationship or marriage. So this break doesn't necessarily mean divorce or separation, though for some of you where your relationship is less than 10 years old, you can be going through some issues. However, it can also mean that your partner is away from you for whatever reason, and it could be related to work. Ketu in the 7th house can also mean that your spouse is surrendering to you, where they may be giving up control and trusting you to make the decisions and take the right direction of your relationship or marriage. So if they have that quality of self-sacrificing and letting you make the decisions, then this Rahu and Ketu transit is nothing to worry about. However, if they want to make the decisions and you want to also make the decisions, then there can be major problems, especially if you are a couple in your 20s and 30s. Saturn will also be in your 2nd house. So you will not be completely comfortable in your immediate environment. Jupiter's position is good, but the 5th house is also about ego. So your ego is enlarged, and Rahu in your 1st house means that you want to be in control and you want everything to revolve around you. So it can be difficult it can create difficulties in relationships and maintaining relationships. So the remedy is to reduce your ego, create a better balance and equality in your relationship. Then this combination of planets will not cause as much difficulty. So the remedy is always about trying to work with the energy and make the necessary adjustments, because that is how a person grows, rather than simply just wearing gemstones. If you are single, Jupiter in the 5th house means that you can be dating, romance can develop, but because of Ketu's position in the 7th house, it may be difficult to find commitment in any of the connections. So this can show something casual or short term. For health, your Saturn will continue its transit in your 1st house for the first part of the year, where the 1st house lord is in the 1st house, which is a good combination. But Saturn is not really that good in the 1st house, so the results can be quite mixed. There can be health challenges that present themselves, but your body and your mind will be strong enough to recover from them. Now, the 2nd half of the year, Rahu will be transiting your 1st house. And when that happens in the sign of Aquarius, you must take care of your health, especially if you are of a senior age. When Rahu is in the 1st house, it's a time you have to put something artificial in your body, or you may have to put your body through some sort of medical machine. So it's highly likely if you are above the age of 60. So I'm not going to go through every disease that could happen, but the general remedy here is to eat healthy, exercise, meditate, and treat your body like a temple. For Pisces natives, Jupiter is the lord of your chart, and it will be transiting your 3rd house for the first part of the year, and then will move into your 4th house before speeding into your 5th house. It will go retrograde towards the end of the year and move back into your 4th house, but as you can see, Jupiter will be transiting across 3 houses, which means that you can expect many changeable events going on, more than usual and more than the last couple of years. And Rahu is also currently transiting your 1st house, which means that there is no limit in the amount of things which can happen in your life the first part of the year. For Korea, the first part of the year, Jupiter
which is ruling your 10th house, will be transiting your 3rd house, while Saturn, the natural significator of career, will be in your 12th house. So Saturn in the 12th house can mean many things. So firstly, it can mean working in isolation. So you can find yourself either working remotely, you can find yourself in a remote town or city, or you could find yourself working abroad or in a job which requires a lot of travel. The 12th house can also mean changes or a loss of a job, which can be likely, especially with Rahu in your 1st house. With Saturn's transit in the 12th house, it can mentally make you feel isolated and away from your true self. Saturn in the 12th house and Rahu in Pisces is very good for those working in import and export, not-for-profit and healthcare. In fact, with Jupiter in the 3rd house, the first part of the year is very good for those who have their own business, especially a creative business or an import-export business. The second half of the year, Saturn will be in your 1st house. So what that means is there will be something new happening in your life, and there can be pressure of workplace responsibilities. So Saturn will move into your 1st house at the end of March. So if you do change your job at some point in 2025, be ready for more work pressure. Meanwhile, Jupiter will be in your 4th house, which is a good position, and it can signify many things. So if I go along with the line of a similar prediction as Saturn in the 1st house, then what this transit can mean is that you are taking your work home with you. So for example, if you take up a new position, say for example as a director, so you may have to work on weekends. So again, this combination can show busyness. Now say for example you are not busy, then this combination can show that you can be in an isolated position again, because the 12th house lord is in the 1st house. So you could find a job where you are working 100% remotely, and you are having little connections with your colleagues when Jupiter is in the 4th house. Now, in some cases, Saturn in the 1st house in Pisces can make it difficult to find stability in your work. So you might experience breaks in your job, or you may only find short contracts because K2 is in your 6th house, which can signify breaking up your routine, and not finding that stability in your work can make you feel anxious. For finances, this whole year can be full of expenses, unfortunately. So Pisces people are naturally already very generous, and in addition to that, the planets will also be making you spend money. So the first part of the year, you can see that Rahu is in your 1st house. So this means that you will be spending money on yourself, on things that bring you personal enjoyment, on things that can contribute to your overall well-being, or simply fulfilling a personal need. Now, because Rahu is in Pisces, so you may have already been spending a lot last year, but you can spend a lot on your well-being, such as going on holiday, going on a yoga retreat, spending a lot on cosmetics and beauty treatment. Now, Saturn is in the 12th house, and usually Saturn in the 12th house can restrict spending. But for some of you, maybe it is helping you spend less, but for others, your 11th house lord is in the 12th house, which shows that the income you are getting, the income you are earning, is going straight out in expenses. So you may be trying your best to save money, but your expenses might just be unavoidable. But at least for the first half of the year, Jupiter is in your 3rd house, aspecting your 11th house. So it's giving you good income from business. it can give you good income from the more effort you put in. So for example, if you do, there might be opportunities to work extra shifts, opportunities to work overtime, and that will obviously help you earn more money. The second half of the year, Rahu will be in your 12th house, and Jupiter will be aspecting your 12th house as well. So you can expect to buy a property or change your residence this year. When Jupiter is in the 4th house, it can give you property related expenses, either through buying or renovating your existing home. Jupiter can also give you expenses on things that make you happy, and you can spend on conveniences such as a new car or new furniture. Now, Saturn's position in the 1st house can be helpful because when Rahu was in the 1st house, you might have been spending a lot of money on yourself. So you will continue to spend money, but Saturn in Pisces will help you bring some control, some restrictions, some boundaries. So say for example you buy a house or a car, that will obviously hit your finances quite hard. So Saturn will say, okay, I got the house, I got the car, now I really need to control my spending. But it won't be easy for you to control because that is not in your nature. You are Pisces people. Having restrictions, creation of boundaries is something that generally doesn't come easy for you. Saturn is also ruling your 11th house. And when it transits the 1st house, it means that opportunities for money, opportunities to make money, can come to you. So for example, you might have a friend who might tell you about an opportunity which, you may take, but you won't feel comfortable with it. If you are older, above 40 or 50, then 11th Lord Saturn in the 1st house can generally be a better transit. However, if you are only in your 20s and 30s, then this transit of Saturn can be a little bit tricky. For relationships, the first part of the year, Rahu will continue its transit in Pisces. And Pisces is a very romantic sign. So Pisces people, especially moon sign people, love a bit of romance and intimate activity. Jupiter is also aspecting your 7th house. So the first part of the year, romance can flourish. So if you have recently got into a relationship, or if you do not get into a relationship, the first half of 2025 can bring you a good time. But you have to be aware that Ketu is in your 7th house, and when Ketu is in the 7th house, it can show that any connection you form can generally be temporary. If you are married or have been married for a long time, Ketu in the 7th house can show some sort of break from your partner. So you could be facing separation, or you may have gone through separation in 2024. Your spouse could be facing health-related challenges. So this can be a time where you may not feel that connected with your spouse anymore. But due to responsibilities, you might have children, you might just decide to stay together. Ketu in the 7th house can also show you might develop a deeper relationship with your spouse. Even if you are a younger couple, if your relationship is authentic, genuine, with a depth of knowledge and emotions, then this Ketu in the 7th house will not bother you. However, if your relationship is purely based on money, looks, nice appearance, fancy things, then there are less chances of the relationship working out, because Ketu does not like superficial things. The second half of the year, Saturn will move into your 1st house. So this can unfortunately cause challenges for many couples. So first of all, if you want to divorce or separate, then this is a time where things can progress. If you are single during this time, searching for a partner, there can be difficulty in finding the partner that you want. When Saturn is in the first house, especially in Pisces, it's difficult to find the person of your dreams. Saturn is a planet which has no interest in love and romance, but you can still come across a person if you make the effort, and number two, if you are not too fussy. So everyone has requirements, obviously, more so now than in previous generations, and Saturn is not going to easily give you the partner that you want. But there is a big but. That doesn't mean you shouldn't put the effort in, because on the 18th of October, Jupiter will move into your 5th house, and here Jupiter will be exalted. So there are good chances that you can find love and romance in October, November and December if you have been unsuccessful earlier. So that doesn't mean that you need to wait until October, because everyone's destiny is different. If you have been married for a while or a long time, Saturn's aspect here can bring some responsibilities into your marriage. So for example, you might have a baby, or your kids may be growing up, and that can obviously create more responsibilities. There can be financial responsibilities, so any type of extra responsibilities can be there. Saturn's aspect here means that you may need to restructure your relationship, compromise more, set new boundaries, respect each other's decisions. So it's not bad, but you have to be willing to adjust, because life progresses, life changes. So we have to also change with our relationships. For health and wellness, Rahu will be in your 1st house at the start of the year. So as I've mentioned before, this can show putting something artificial in your body, or your body having to go through some sort of medical device, or you may be prescribed certain medication. So for example, you might be low on iron or vitamins, so there will be tablets that you need to take. Saturn in the 12th house can also give some health issues, not always life-threatening, but you can find yourself in solitude or experience isolation. So for example, if you're working remotely, working away from home, this can cause isolation, and you can feel disconnected from the world. Saturn in the 12th house can bring phobias or subconscious fears to the surface, because the 12th house is everything that is hidden, and Saturn will make things a reality. So things that you never really wanted to do before, so you may have had to go through or do them in the past 2 years. So it's more mental and emotional health if you are younger, and if you are older, then it can be some time that you may have to spend in hospital due to physical health issues. The second half of the year, Saturn will now move into your 1st house, and if you are looking at transits from the moon, you will be going through the 2nd phase of Sarasati, where your Saturn will go over your natal moon. So now there is no point me sugarcoating things. Saturn brings challenges, as we know. And, I have to go through them. Everyone has to go through them. And there is no magic remedy to make everything go away. So this transit is about accepting and fighting through. Jupiter is in your 4th house and will transit your 5th house. So these are both good houses for Jupiter. So there will be moments or times with optimism during 2025. So you take the good with the bad.